Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the game went exactly how we wanted it to go. Clayton Kershaw dominated. The offense put up a lot of runs, and they didn't have to use anyone significant out of the bullpen. Also, Miguel Rojas is starting to hit the ball a little bit better. So, what does that mean for the Dodgers? And lastly, Padres are coming into town this weekend. What do we expect, and what do we want to see from this series? So that's what's on tap. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This is a daily podcast covering the Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. You can find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube simply by searching for Locked On Dodgers. And if you want to become a part of the Everydayers Club, or wherever you want to say it, you can just subscribe in each of those places and never miss a day, because we're not going to. If this is your first time listening or watching, I'm Vince Samperio. I'm joined by my co-host, Jeff Snider. And we're both lifelong Dodger fans that have covered the team, have been in the press box, been in the locker room, been to Camelback Ranch, have been all over the country watching the Dodgers. And we're here to, not really bring you insider news, but to bring you the smart fans perspective on our boys in blue every weekday morning. That's what we're here to do today. Your weekday morning, if you did it the right way, like the Everydayers, you listen to the Dodgers podcast earlier in the morning, and then you watch the Dodgers play or listen to the Dodgers play on the SXM app at 10:40 in the morning, if you're in the LA area. And you watch the Dodgers do pretty much how we laid out the ideal way for the Dodgers to kind of play this out, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I went back to listen because I actually, in my mind, whenever I'm thinking about a big comfortable lead, 8-1 is what I always go to in my mind. And so I had to go back and say, I don't think I said 8-1 yesterday, but I almost, like, in my mind, I was thinking, oh yeah, offense scores some runs, Kershaw goes 7, leave with an 8-1 lead, and let Wander Suero pitch the last 2 innings. I really wish I had said it, because 8-1 is my go-to score in this situation. And that was the final score in this game. Yeah, it was exactly what we hoped for. Kershaw was not just 7 innings, but 7 very efficient innings. So it's not even like he's going to be tired for his next start. He only threw 92 pitches, which 13 per inning. Just dominant performance from Kershaw. And then Wander Suero had a really good 2-inning stint that ultimately, he didn't even need to be really good. He was going to pitch those last 2 innings no matter what. And but he was really good. And it was 2 hours and 11 minutes, Vince. You could have conceivably slept through this entire game, not even woken up. If you had a rough Tuesday night, one of those Tuesday nights, you might have slept through this whole game.
Yeah, and like you said, it was another great Kershaw performance, especially coming off his last one where he walked a lot of guys and didn't quite have the outing he wanted to. 18 swings and misses, 7 innings, just the 1 home run to Contreras. One of those, maybe a little bit of a hanger, maybe a little bit of Contreras was expecting, and it landed right in his wheelhouse. But other than that, really no stressful innings like you mentioned. He's not going to be, too tired. And exactly what we said, that Kershaw has been, and they said it on the broadcast too, the Dodgers have counted on Kershaw in this type of spot for a lot of times in the past years, whether it's to stop a losing streak, which this wasn't to stop a losing streak, but either to stop a losing streak, to get them over the hump to the next day without using too many bullpen arms, or to rescue them after, a day they use too many bullpen arms. That's exactly what he did. And, he likes pitching in Milwaukee. He has a pretty decent outings out there in Milwaukee as well. And yeah, offensively, the homers continued. Freddie Freeman hit one out. Will Smith hit one out. Miguel Vargas hit another one out. Miguel Vargas, I know he's a very good hitter and he can hit to all parts of the field. And, probably when he's going best, he's hitting it more up the middle and to right center. But the last couple of times when he's turned on one, his swing is really, really nice.
Yeah, and I think that's what people are expecting him to develop as he becomes a more mature major leaguer, is some of that gap power. He is going to turn on the ball once in a while. And we see that, Freddie Freeman is not a pull hitter. Freddie Freeman hits it all fields, but when he does turn on one, he's got a ton of power. And I feel like Vargas has potential to be a similar hitter to Freeman from the other side of the plate, obviously, with that, gap power, hitting doubles, hitting the ball to the gap, spraying the ball around, but also when you make a mistake inside, he's going to turn on it and hit it 1,000 feet. Cause he's got, and we talked about yesterday, whether it's a lot of backspin or whatever, like and that one today, he hit it 107 miles an hour. It did not look like he hit it that hard. He hit it well, but whatever it is, like there's some sort of optical illusion going on because his bat doesn't look as fast as the exit velocities tell you it must be.
Yeah, it's like I said, his swing. I mean, we talked about it yesterday when, if he actually swung hard, he might hit that one over. His swing doesn't look like he swings hard, and but the way he puts it, the backspin that he does when he does turn on the ball, yeah, he's looking good. And after having James Outman being Rookie of the Month first month, so far the start Vargas is off to right now, looking like potential May Rookie of the Month in that case. And yeah, it was just complete. Everyone on the offense had something to contribute for the most part. I think, our boy Trace Thompson went 0 for 1. Then he got subbed out. Then Peralta actually came through in his regards. We can talk about Trace real quick. So Bill Plunkett put out a tweet that he talked to Trace and kind of puts things into perspective, not only for Trace put it into perspective for him, but put it in perspective for us. He kind of mentioned during these struggles right now and during that 0 for skid that he had, just how he said he was in a dark spot and trying to figure things out, and then that he changes his mindset of thinking, and so he's playing in the major leagues, and that kind of helps him out of it. And obviously we've talked about him, and it's easy for us to say Trace Thompson DFA him, but he is still a guy, so it puts that in perspective for us. But at the end of the day, realistically for this Dodger team, tomorrow could be his last day. JD Martinez is expected to come back Friday. We still probably both think that Bush is going to get sent down in that aspect. But if there was a time, a month of time is long enough for a guy like Trace Thompson to, if it is his time, thank you for what you did, and you might find your way back in a couple of more years and have another little tear.
Yeah, and the one argument that could be in favor of keeping Bush would be because Chris Taylor can play all over the field. And if you keep Bush, you just say, okay, Taylor, you're just an outfielder now. Bush becomes that, backup infielder. The problem is Bush can't play shortstop. And so you're back at Miguel Rojas playing shortstop every day if you go that route. So yeah, it's probably Bush going back down to the minors. But yeah, I think we've both been pretty clear that we have nothing but love for Trace Thompson personally. We don't want him to fail. It's just, the writing was on the wall. We talked about it during the offseason that we were nervous about Trace Thompson this year because last year's success seemed unsustainable. And so far it has been. I guess on the bright side, I feel like this year's lack of success is unsustainable too, because Trace has been so he almost has to get better just by accident, even because it's really hard to be this bad for this long. And so maybe he is going to break out a little bit, but until they make a trade, if they were to trade for Willie Adames or Tim Anderson to be that starting shortstop, then I think Trace would be the roster casualty at that point, because that does push Chris Taylor back to a full-time outfield role and eliminate the need for Trace Thompson. But I think until there's a trade for either a shortstop or an outfielder, I think Trace is sticking around.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned he almost has to get better, and that's maybe true, but also they're really only using him against lefties, and he hasn't been able to hit lefties. Last year you could say if he had a little bit of a moment like this, but he was playing more so every day after a certain point, or at least on a somewhat everyday basis. So he was facing more righties, which he was hitting. So yeah, it's just a weird spot that they're in for him, especially with Peralta and Hayward. Like I said, Peralta's not doing enough to make you say we don't need him, but he's not doing enough to say he shouldn't play. But he's just kind of doing enough, like treading water. Jason Hayward at this point has been pretty good. So, and Outman's now an everyday guy. So, yeah, we'll see what happens in the outfield. We're going to talk about Miguel Rojas because he's a guy that also was not hitting very well at the start of the year. He's still not hitting amazingly well, but he's doing enough to make us have a segment about him and kind of where the Dodgers move forward with him and what they would need to see in order to kind of feel comfortable with him or with this current alignment that they have at shortstop. So that's what's on tap. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Have you ever wanted tickets, but you didn't get them in the moment? You didn't buy them and now it's sold out and now you don't know what to do. Well, if this was back in the day, you could go to a stadium and look for a scalper, but we're not back in the day. We're in the new age, and all you have to do is get the Game Time app, and you can find tickets to basically any event in your area, and get yourself some good tickets, some bad tickets, whatever. You can get whatever tickets you want, and they got killer deals on last minute tickets, and they also have a best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over buying them and then having to worry about tickets dropping at a later point. Browse the Game Time app, go check it out. They got not just baseball games, they got basketball games. Lakers, if they keep winning, there's concerts, there's other events that are going on. It's easy to find tickets. They got seat views for if you're looking at how's this going to look, where am I sitting, you can get some seat views. You can check all that out. Game Time is the place for last minute ticket deals. Don't plan in advance. Just wait till the day of the game. And the Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price, because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB, that's with all caps, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account on the Game Time app and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Make sure to listen tomorrow, as we'll have an episode, answering your mailbag questions. So if you have any mailbag questions, go check it out. And remember to listen every day and become a part of the Everydayers. And while there's no game tomorrow, there is a game on Friday. And if you're not able to watch it, you can always listen with SiriusXM or the SiriusXM app. Just search Dodgers and you can find it. You can also find Locked On Dodgers on there if you want another place to listen to us. So all that being said now, Jeff, Miguel Rojas had a couple hits yesterday. He's had a few games with multiple hits in the last week. He's still not hitting 200. If you look over his stats over the last week, he's still he's at 250. If you look over the last couple weeks, he's at 225. So it's not anything to write home about, but it's a lot better than it was at the start of the season. And I don't know if it's a matter of the injuries or him figuring it out or whatever the case is, or just the fact that he's able to stay on the field now because he's not the everyday shortstop. But it's nice to see the guy that they got to put the bat, make contact and occasionally start coming through.
Yeah, for sure. He had a big hit the other day, the RBI single to right field after Outman's double, and then in Wednesday's game he had two hits, almost had three. A great play by the second baseman. Basically it looked just like Rojas' second hit, a line drive up the middle, but the second baseman made a nice play on it. Rojas, he put the bat on the ball, and Kirsten Watson talked to him after the game about the change, and he said it was a lot about the injuries and just the consistency of, I played for a couple days and I'm hurt, and so it's hard to get in the groove offensively. But he said that he's been working a lot with the hitting coaches, and the confidence that Dave Roberts has shown in him has helped out a lot. And this is what we expect. We don't expect Miguel Rojas to be, he's not going to lead the league in batting average. He's not going to be a great hitter, but he does put the bat on the ball when he's going right. He makes contact, and he hits the ball. One of the things we talked about during the offseason was potential for him to hit the ball a little bit harder with some swing stuff. The Dodgers had said that they had identified some things they thought they could help with that. And, a guy who puts the bat on the ball as often as he does, if he can hit the ball a little bit harder, those things are going to fall a little bit more, especially without the shift. He's the opposite of a 3 true outcomes guy. He's a 0 true outcomes guy. He doesn't walk, doesn't strike out, and doesn't hit homers. He just puts the ball in play. And the lack of the shift should help a guy like that. And, we saw that his base hit up the middle today probably would have been an out last year, because they would have had him shifted over and the second baseman would have made the play. The second baseman was just close enough to get it. And obviously the first hit was just a line drive to left field. It's going to be a hit regardless of any sort of shift. But yeah, Rojas is a guy who definitely could and probably should be a contributor offensively, a lot more than his what's he at now, 193. He's almost up to the Mendoza line now. But if he can bat 240 and get some of these key hits, That's huge, especially for a backup shortstop, a utility infielder guy, which is hopefully the role that he'll be spending most of his time in. That could be pretty valuable.
Yeah, and like I said, we know we with him we're talking about batting average, but that's because, like you just mentioned, he doesn't walk, he doesn't hit homers, so his value does kind of come from batting average, and he's mostly going to hit singles, and he came through the other day starting one of the rally or being a part of the rally when he hit that single off of Alvarado against the Phillies, so he can come through when they need him, but now it kind of shifts the conversation a little bit to the shortstop position. Dave Roberts did say Mookie Betts will play there about 20% of the time against right-handers. So most of the time they're probably going to face 5 right-handers in a week, or 5 to 7 depending on how many games they have, which means Mookie's basically going to start once a week at short, maybe twice on a good week. Miguel Rojas will get a couple of those, Chris Taylor will get a couple of those starts. But as everyone kind of comes forward, if and it's obviously going to change a lot. If Taylor keeps hitting, then he can play shortstop conceivably more, and Mookie can stay in the outfield conceivably more, and it's not going to make the difference if Taylor's not hitting or if Rojas not hitting or whatever the case. Let's just say everyone's hitting at normal-ish position, like normal-ish for their career. Jeff, would you like this shortstop kind of position to look like?
I mean, if like you said, if Taylor can bounce back and actually start hitting, if Taylor could be 2017 Taylor, I love him as the starting shortstop. But if he's, even though he's been hitting better, he's still pretty Chris Taylory in the swing and miss, and so I'm going to need to see a little bit more sustained success from Taylor before I'm really comfortable saying, hey, he can just be our starting shortstop. So right now, I mean, Mookie at shortstop is a situation I really like. He's played shortstop well. He's obviously got the athleticism for it. And it does allow them, especially against righties, like you said, to get Outman, Hayward, and Peralta in the lineup in the outfield. Even obviously Peralta is one of these things is not like the others of those three. But even he in his career has hit righties really well. And so I like the potential of Peralta. He generally gives you a good at bat, and he's had a couple big hits for the Dodgers this year. And so I feel like that's a pretty decent chance to win a game. Having Mookie at shortstop there. I do think that they are going to be big players in the market for Willy Adames or Tim Anderson if the White Sox and or Brewers start selling, because I do think that the ideal situation at shortstop probably isn't currently on their roster.
Yeah, and yeah, that's probably right. And when it comes to it, I think Mookie once or twice a week, Rojas once or twice a week, Taylor once or twice a week kind of works for now until somebody maybe emerges or doesn't emerge in that sense. I do think that Roberts can do a better job of kind of maybe planning out a little bit better to where there's not games where like Rojas and Barnes are in the lineup. If you can avoid that, and until Rojas is like hitting 300, and then it won't matter. But I do think like, okay, we're gonna face this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. Okay, we'll have Mookie at short this day and Rojas sitting because we want Barnes to play this day, and then the next day, Smith is back, whatever the case is. Especially once JD comes back, because then they're not going to be able to get in, Will Smith's bad at DH or anybody, or Michael Bush or whoever else. They're not going to be able to mix in guys at DH anymore once JD's back. Is for the most part, if JD's playing, he's going to be DH, and that's going to be for most of the time, unless they're going to try to ease him back into it, which is also a possibility. So, yeah, I think for now it's a couple of times a week, but I do think if you can manipulate it to where you're not having a day with Barnes and Rojas, or if Taylor's in a bad swing of things, you don't have Taylor and Barnes in a lineup. I think the Dodgers can manipulate that because Barnes only plays once, twice a week at the most, and Mookie's going to play once or twice a week at the most at shortstop.
Yeah, of course, here we are saying this on a day the Dodgers just scored 8 runs with Taylor, Thompson, Barnes, and Rojas all in the lineup. Yeah, and a lot of that tells you how important Will Smith is. I think the Dodgers are 16-5 now with Will Smith in the lineup, and that's I think they're going to have to give JD Martinez, and maybe this back issue will be an excuse to, you know what, Will Smith needs to play pretty much every day, and so on the days when Barnes is catching, Smith is going to be our DH. Or at least, a lot of those days. I think they're going to have to find a way to keep Smith's bat in the lineup almost every day, because they are a much better team, much deeper lineup, much more complete lineup with Will Smith in the lineup.
Yep. All right. That's enough on that talk. We're going to finish up with the segment on the upcoming series against the Padres this weekend. We know what happened in San Diego last weekend, at least after the Padres won the first game, and kind of the I guess trolling. It wasn't very good trolling, but either way, we're going to talk about how will the Dodgers, stadium in general react, which is probably nothing. How fans are going to be, what if this changes anything moving forward for the rest of the season against the Padres. So that's what's on tap. So as always, keep it locked on Dodgers. Today's episode is also brought to you by Sorare, and our new sponsor, Sorare, is a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. And unlike other fantasy baseball platforms, Sorare managers truly own their own fantasy experience, collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your own cards, and there's no cost to play. It's kind of like, if you're someone my age, you remember Pokemon and Pokemon cards. And if you ever actually played Pokemon, it's similar to that, where you collect cards, you try to build a good team. And obviously those guys need to perform. It's a little bit different in that sense. But either way, it's kind of like that. So plus the more you win, if you're out there getting the bigger cards and better cards and guys that, surprise for you, maybe some of those cards that aren't as good, you get them. You play against opponents and you can win. And you can win a lot of things that can range from merchandise, tickets, signed jerseys, VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. They got a few MLB guys on their brand campaign, Juan Soto, Julio Rodriguez, as two of those guys. So go check out Sorare right now. Head to sorare.com/locked on. That's spelled Sorare, SORARE.com/locked on to draft your team of free player cards, set your lineup, and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked on to start playing today. All right, Jeff. So Dodgers have an off day tomorrow. We'll have a mailbag episode, but it wasn't going to guarantee that we get a question about this specifically, although probably would get a Padre question. But either way, last weekend, we know what we saw with the Clayton Kershaw and the crying emojis and everything else. You talked about that in general. My real quick thoughts were, I don't mind trolling and pettiness. I just like it to be actually, subtle or worthy or of it. Putting emojis on a player is not funny or good or anything. But either way, Dodger Stadium has had some of those petty moments in the past, specifically more Dieter Rule, playing under the sea when Madison Bumgarner was coming out of the game after getting rocked and is potentially offside as a Giant, and different subtle things just in general Dieter's done over the years. Some that are trolly, some are that are just in connection with player names or things of that nature. But I don't expect Dodger Stadium as a whole to do it. Dieter Rule could maybe factor his way into this. But also just like the fans, like, do you expect any, they had the Mookie Betts sign and, Mookie kind of brought it up on the broadcast, but do you expect Dodger fans to react into that moment and play into it and, try to come back at it? Or, well, what do you expect and what do you want, I guess, are two different things.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, there's definitely some heat on this rivalry right now. Like I talked about last week, it is currently a rivalry on the field because the two teams are battling for the division. And, I talked about how the staying power of the rivalry will be a different question. But right now, yeah, it's pretty hot. And I think there will be some I think the fans are going to be pretty fired up. I think, I don't know if it'll be like San Diego because this is definitely still a rivalry that means more to Padre fans than to Dodger fans. But I do think that the Kershaw nonsense last week will have galvanized the fan base a little bit, and there probably will be some people who are kind of fired up and ready to be loud. As far as I definitely think Dieter Rule is probably working on some stuff right now. I don't know. I've been trying to think if there's maybe something about steroids, obviously not specifically about steroids, but if there's some sort of musical theme for Tatis's at bats. But yeah, it's I don't think there's going to be anything official from the Dodgers for sure. And I think that the fans are going to be pretty fired up, but not quite Petco Park levels.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the hostility originates with Padre fans, but it's not to say Dodger fans aren't as hostile. Like, to me, it's one of those where, as a Dodger fan, like, I feel that us reacting to when Padre fans do stuff is exactly what they want. Like that, they want to rile up Dodger fans, and that's exactly what they've been getting. And I feel like if we treat this like, if fans were just like, oh, treat this like a normal May series, that would be a lot better of a response than to maybe what we're thinking might happen. Whether it's, signs are a little bit harder because Dodgers don't allow signs. You'd have to, I don't think the Padres allow signs that big that they snuck in, but either way, signs, and it was funny, like the response to social media when people were like trying to find things that the Dodgers did or Dodger fans did. And they were talking about like, oh, like the steroid needle, I think when the inflatable, when the Padres played there. And I don't think, people didn't understand the difference between the stadium doing something and fans doing something. It's a completely different thing.
And for me, the other thing is Tatis actually did get suspended for PEDs. Kershaw had a bad game. It's like, Madison Bumgarner really did throw a fit about Max Muncy not even pimping a home run, and so like the trolling that has happened, it's like, okay, but this is responses to things that actually happened. The Kershaw thing, the thing that was so baffling about, and like you said, the problem was it just wasn't funny or clever. It was, hey, look, here's a guy and we put teardrops on him. And, if we've been watching baseball for longer than 3 years, we know he's the best pitcher we've ever seen. So I really don't have any issue with responses to things that actually happen. I mean, I remember you probably remember going to Dodger games in the mid 2000s and people harassing Barry Bonds about using steroids. It's going to happen at every stadium. And yeah, there's probably a little bit more because of Tatis and, because the one game the Padres did win, Tatis hit 2 home runs. And so Tatis is always going to be a lightning rod. Even before he got caught cheating, he was going to be a lightning rod just because of his personality and because he's really good. So yeah, I think the Dodgers will continue to be a classier organization. And so you won't see anything official from them. But yeah, I think it's okay for the fans to be fired up for this because baseball's supposed to be fun. And the fact is, Dodger Stadium does have a lot of casual fans there. That's how the Dodgers fill the stadium 81 times a year. It's why the Wave is so popular at Dodger Stadium, because there are a lot of people there just to have a good time. And so there are people who aren't diehard Dodger fans, who aren't as into the nuances of things as you and I are, who, all they know really is, oh, Dodgers and Padres have been battling each other for 4 years now. It's a big deal. And so I think there is going to be a lot of that casual fan atmosphere, which will be pretty fired up. And because they're going to be there for the spectacle of, hey, it's the Padres, they're rivals right now. And Tatis cheated, and Manny Machado used to be a Dodger and now he's a wiener, and, all this stuff. And so, man, and we're going to have to mark this as unsafe for ads now that I called Manny Machado a wiener. Yeah, that's what I meant. He's a Frankfurter. So there is going to be a lot of that. And I think it'll be fun. And really, as long as the Dodgers score more runs than the Padres in each of the 3 games, that's all that really matters to me. But, the atmosphere should be fun.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. The Dodgers, every player has said it. And even if they felt differently, I don't think they would say differently. Every time you ask the Padres about the Dodgers, they just play right into it. Every time you ask the Dodgers about the Dodgers about the Padres, it's just another series. It's just another whatever, and I think that's always perfect in the response, because it is just a series in May. And now, when it comes down to it, series in May can be a difference when it comes down to it in October, September and early October, when you're maybe the division's on the line. But at this point, there's no reason to get too much into it. And it is a little bit one-sided in the sense of there was, the Dodgers at the very least now, the rivalry part's always, oh, it's until you beat or till, somebody starts winning. The Dodgers had always won. And last year they did finally lose in the postseason to the Padres. So like now in the moment, it's a rivalry. And, right now there's been rivalries like that go a couple years and then they don't, the Pirates and Reds had fights almost every other series a couple years ago for like, a couple years in succession. And now I don't think they even care about each other anymore like that, other than that they play each other more often than everyone else. So, yeah, it'll be fun. As long as everyone's just fine on Sunday, there's going to be a lot of mothers in the house on Sunday. So let's be respectful Sunday. Friday, Saturday, go crazy.
Yeah, I wonder if the Pirates Reds has to do with the Steelers Bengals because they're big rivals, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a big one.
It's yeah, yeah. I know that some Dodger fans feel like the Red Sox are rivals because the Lakers and Celtics are rivals. So, but yeah, and the Padres, San Diego doesn't have any other teams, so there's none of that going on here. Yeah, it should be fun. And like I said, as long as the Dodgers win 3 games this weekend, I don't really care what else happens. Yeah, be respectful for Mother's Day for sure.
Yeah. All right. And also, this will be the first real hostile environment Tatis goes into. He's been either teams that don't care or don't have fans or at home. I don't think it's going to affect, like, it's not going to be like the Astros where some guys were affected by it. This will be 3-day series in LA where it was already kind of hostile toward him anyways. So it's not going to be anything extra. But hopefully the Dodgers can shut him down and, get those exaggerated cheers when he strikes out.
Yeah, although with Tatis, I could see him hitting 4 home runs in a game. Like he's
already done that.
I think he's oblivious to this stuff, So yeah, maybe we'll put this episode out early. We usually do them first thing in the morning, but because of the day game, we're recording this in the afternoon. So maybe we'll do an evening episode. So those of you who are listening on your way to work on Thursday morning, it's still there for you. But maybe no reason waiting. And then I guess
on the way home from work.
Yeah. And tomorrow's we might put out early too, because we're going to record our mailbag a little bit earlier in the day because I have to go up to Idaho for a baseball tournament. So maybe today and tomorrow will be early episodes. But one question for you, Vince, it only has a little bit to do with this conversation that we've had. You mentioned Rookie of the Month earlier. In 2006, did you know Hanley Ramirez won the National League Rookie of the Year award? He didn't win Rookie of the Month in any month, but 4 months his teammates did win Rookie of the Month. Josh Johnson won it twice. Dan Uggla won it once, and Anibal Sanchez won it once. So the Marlins had 4 Rookies of the Month that year, and a different guy won Rookie of the Year.
Oh, that's interesting.
Of the 12 guys who got Rookie of the Year votes that year, 6 of them were Marlins, and 3 of them were Dodgers.
There you go.
Yeah,
this is why we're here. This is why you're here, Jeff, for these factoids.
All that important stuff. Hey, and Hanley Ramirez played for the Dodgers at some point, so it's relevant.
It all wraps up. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day every day. Remember, the Dodgers are off tomorrow, but on Friday, if you're not going to be able to watch, you can listen on SiriusXM or the SXM app. All you got to do is search for Dodgers, and you can find the home broadcast for every game. If you want to listen to us, like we mentioned, we're wherever you find a podcast and on YouTube. You can subscribe in each of those places and make it easy to become an everydayer. An everydayer is just someone that listens to the podcast every day or as close to possible as every day. Sometimes you miss a day, but
we're not checking your history, guys.
Yeah. But if your intention is to listen every day and you listen to like almost every day, that's enough for us.
You're an everydayer.
Yeah, you're an everydayer. So go join that group. Tell your friends, tell your family, let them become everydayers. You guys can all become everydayers. And then, you guys can be part of an exclusive club that maybe not a lot of people know about. But if the more you tell people, the more people will know about it. So then that's a good thing. We're not secret. It's not like Fight Club where, first rule is don't talk about Fight Club.
First rule of Locked On Dodgers is always talk about Locked On Dodgers.
Yeah, exactly. So go out there, spread the word. Remember, you can find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. Jeff is on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vincent91. Go get those questions in for tomorrow's mailbag right now, because we're going to put this episode out early. So go put those questions in now. We'll answer them on tomorrow's episode. And you can also get a hold of us via email. You can send those questions via email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com, or via voicemail text at 323-863-5625. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car. If you're at home, tell your smart device, play podcast, Locked On Dodgers. And remember, you don't have to agree. You just have to listen. Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.